Joining me now is senior advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister and Israel's former ambassador to the United Kingdom, Mark Regev. Ambassador Regev, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So I want to ask you about something that seems to be a developing situation. Just a few hours ago, we saw flares, we heard explosions around Gaza. Can you tell us about those operations? What specifically is your understanding of what's happening there?
So I can't share with you everything that I know because combat is ongoing. But I can tell you this. Gaza City is the epicenter for Hamas's military machine. And we are closing in on Hamas in our effort to destroy that organization. And they have their major command and control is actually under a hospital called the Shifa Hospital. And they have built under that hospital, they've built a command and control center and a network of tunnels. One of the hostages who was released, an 85-year-old woman, reported that it was like a spiderweb of underground facilities, tunnels leading to bunkers, leading to arms depots, leading to missile launching sites, a subterranean terror infrastructure that we have to destroy.
What is the very latest that is happening at Al-Shifa, and how involved is the IDF in that operation?
So obviously we don't target hospitals, obviously we don't target civilians, but Hamas has placed its military machine right under a hospital. So we are acting as is surgical as is humanly possible in a difficult combat situation. But I need to say the following. Over the last few days, we've had tens of thousands of civilians from the area leave. We established a humanitarian corridor. I think yesterday, 80,000 people left. The day before, I think it was 50,000. People are voting with their feet. They're heeding our advice, our urging to pull out of the combat area. That's good, because we don't want to see civilians caught up in the crossfire. Now, of course, we understand that not all the civilians can leave. It's clear some people in the hospital cannot leave. Of course, we're sometimes doubtful because the head of the hospital is someone that Hamas appointed, yes? But given that, we understand there's probably people there who generally can't leave, and we are, of course, distinguishing between civilians and the Hamas terrorists. The former, of course, we don't want to harm, and the latter is our brutal enemy who we wish to fight and destroy.
I want to get your reaction to something that Secretary Blinken said earlier today. I'm going to play it for you and then get your response on the other side.
At the same time, much more needs to be done to protect civilians and to make sure that humanitarian assistance reaches them. Far too many Palestinians have been killed. Far too many have suffered these past weeks. And we want to do everything possible to prevent harm to them and to maximize the assistance that gets to them.
Do you agree with Secretary Blinken's assessment that too many Palestinian civilians have been killed? And what are you prepared to do about that?
We agree with Secretary Blinken. Our goals are the same. We want to be to hit Hamas and to end its rule of terror in Gaza. Israelis should not have to live in fear of terrorists crossing the frontier in the middle of the night and butchering their children. And ultimately, getting rid of Hamas is good for the people of Gaza, too. I mean, Hamas has been in power in the Gaza Strip for 16 years. And what have they brought the people of Gaza? Just suffering, pain, bloodshed, and impoverishment. So getting rid of Hamas, I think, is good for both sides, for the Israelis and the Palestinians. And in the framework of getting rid of Hamas, we have to make a maximum effort to keep civilians out of crossfire. We don't want to see innocent people getting hurt, and also to deliver humanitarian support to the civilians expeditiously.
Ambassador, big picture, how many civilians are you comfortable with losing their lives within this broader goal of rooting out Hamas?
So we don't want to see a single civilian killed. And let me be frank, I'd prefer there were none. But I'm also realistic to know that that's difficult because there's been no war in recent history where there hasn't been civilian casualties. Even when the U.S. led the international coalition to destroy ISIS in Syria and Iraq, there were difficult battles in places like Mosul and Fallujah, and there were civilian deaths. Our job as democratic countries is to keep those deaths to a minimum, That's our responsibility. That's our goal.
What has your reaction been to seeing some of these images of civilians suffering and losing their lives? And what's your message to their families?
So we didn't want this war in the first place. This war was started by Hamas. They launched this war by attacking our people and butchering Israeli civilians. We are responding to that violence. And, you know, I think the people of Gaza understand that. They're voiceless because they live in a brutal authoritarian regime. But I think the people of Gaza, when they see what's going on, they know who started this conflict. They know what it's all about. Unfortunately, however, because of the nature of the regime in Gaza, it's difficult for people to say that publicly. But as Hamas is being weakened, as their control is being shaken, as we move in to end Hamas's rule, I think you'll see more and more Gazans saying all this death and destruction, it was brought upon us by this terrible Hamas regime that put its crazy, extreme theology / ideology, yes, I don't know what to call it there, Hamas's crazy platform of death and destruction, they put that above and beyond the well-being of the people of Gaza. And I hope that when this is over, the people of Gaza get a government that actually worries about their well-being.
Can you help us to understand these 4-hour pauses that the White House announced yesterday? Is this actually something new that you're doing? Had you been taking these 4-hour pauses? And are there discussions about even longer pauses to allow for humanitarian aid?
Well, precisely because we don't see the civilians as the target of our operation, so we're trying to deliver humanitarian aid. And when we deliver humanitarian aid, there's, of course, a humanitarian pause so the aid can be delivered. And when people want to leave areas of combat, and we want to facilitate that, so we have a humanitarian corridor for a specific time period in a specific area. And we want to do more of that. Israel has said openly, we've got no problem with water, food, medicine entering the Gaza Strip. We're establishing a humanitarian safe zone in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, not far from the Rafah crossing where the aid is coming in, not far from the Mediterranean coast, so aid can theoretically also come in from sea. The French are sending a hospital ship. Maybe others will do so too. On the Egyptian side of the frontier, they've established a field hospital as well for wounded. And the idea is, I know war is difficult. War is painful. It would have been better to avoid this war in the first place. But now that war has been forced upon us, we have to make a maximum effort while we relentlessly pursue Hamas at the same time to do everything we can to support the civilian population.
Ambassador, just finally, if you can help us to understand how the Prime Minister views the future of Gaza. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Netanyahu suggested Israel would have a role to play for a, quote, indefinite period. Yesterday, he seemed to moderate those comments. Can you clarify, will Israel also commit to not annexing any of the territory of Gaza? How does Israel see its role?
So you have to distinguish between political control and a security input. Political control, the Prime Minister said unequivocally, we don't want to rule the people of Gaza. We don't want to govern the Gaza Strip. We prefer that others do that. It's probably best that the Gazans do that for themselves.
Just to be very clear, so are you talking about the Palestinian Authority?
We haven't said that at all publicly yet, and it's probably the wrong time to talk about it because, as you know, the Palestinian Authority has stubbornly refused to condemn the terrible massacre of October 7th. And they tell us, or they tell the international community, that they're the responsible Palestinians, they're the more moderate Palestinians, they're the partner for peace. And Israelis across the political spectrum in my country, from left to right and everything in between, everyone is disappointed and annoyed that the Palestinian Authority has refused to condemn the massacre. Having said that, to get back to answering the question, we don't want political control over Gaza, but we would be irresponsible to take our eye off the ball. And as far as security goes, when this is over and we've defeated Hamas and we've dismantled their military machine, we're going to have to keep a security envelope. We have to make sure there isn't a residual terrorist presence, that a terrorist presence isn't built up again. As I said, if we take our eye off the ball, we do it at our own danger, yes? So we're not going to do that again and experience attacks like we did on October 7th, ever again.
I do have one more question. President Biden, as you know, has expressed some real concern about the uptick in violence in the West Bank. What specifically is Israel doing to make sure that that violence doesn't escalate further? And how concerned are you?
So we are concerned. Hamas has cells across the West Bank, and they have activists, and they would like to escalate the situation there, create violence, create death and destruction like they did in southern Israel. And so we are preempting and we're acting against those Hamas cells. And so far, though violence has risen in the West Bank of late, we are committed to trying to keep a lid on that. We have no interest in some sort of wide-scale escalation there. And I think we've been successful at doing that, and that allows us to focus on what needs to be done in Gaza.
All right, Ambassador Mark Regev, thank you so much for your time and your perspective. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.